that this is so unlike me. I feel like I'm about to puke right now. I talk in front of people, and I'm about to be extremely vulnerable with every single one of you. But I definitely feel it's so needed. It's something that was put on my heart, and it's
In your ear. I don't know what it was. Actually, I do. It was the Lord. He was telling me, man, Lily is somebody that you need to pray for. I love being around Lily, and but I didn't have the best.
it was like a 5 year long course. It was very financially draining, emotionally draining. It was just such a chaotic and just draining time of my life, my three siblings' lives, and my mom's life. So during that time, my dad was out of the picture. During that time, my mom would she brainwashed all of us that he was the way she described him is literally like Satan as a man. Like that's how my mom described him to me at like 11 and through on. And so I hated my dad. I never reached out to him. I didn't talk to him for 5 years. I was just so angry, and I was fully convinced that life is so much better without him. Um, and then basically, my mom had to get a job because she was an only mom. Like she was a stay-at-home mom, and so whenever they got divorced, she didn't have an income. So she was going to go to nursing school. And so during nursing school, because she was taking like this speedy route to it, so she took it in 2 years to get all her credits. So she didn't have any off. So I became the me and my older sister Lizzie became the like caretakers of the household. For those 2 years, we would clean, cook, do every single thing, drive siblings around. And at this time, my special needs brother Keenan was living up in Arizona because he's like 24/7 care, and so he needed to be with my grandparents who could definitely give him a better environment while we were in that situation. And so I was convinced, like I tried my best to keep an optimistic attitude about it through the whole thing because I knew that my mom was on the verge of breaking and I did not want her to have like any reason to continue that breakage if I could help it. So I would do everything I could. I would write pages upon pages or just like handwritten letters to her for exams or for anything, just to give her that extra encouragement that she needed. And so after she graduated nursing school, um, I was thinking like, okay, perfect. Like our life is about to become normal again. Like we're about to be a family again. Like I can finally focus on school. I can focus on having friends. I can focus on other things that aren't stressing me about the finances of my house, which sounds odd to say as a kid. And so after she graduated nursing school, it was very clear that she reached a point of just complete resentment for where her life was at. She she wanted so much more than what she had, and there were things holding her back from that. And it put her in a very bitter place towards everything about her life, including her kids. And so what I thought was gonna happen definitely did not happen. And she began to just cut us out from every part of her life. And I still continue to like lead my household with my sister. She just began doing different various things and she was breaking so bad. She was a different person and it got to the point where we hadn't spoken to each other in about 3 months. And we also would see each other about once a week whenever she would be home. And so um it got to the point where this was all going on like maybe last year and the year before that. So sophomore and junior year when that was all like ramping up and kind of becoming like, dang, this is serious. And during those times, from freshman to last year, I had reached a point in my life where I was so done with trying and being drained and just being strong for other people. And I couldn't, like, I had no identity. I stopped believing in God completely. I completely denounced the fact that God exists and I was real. I would in fact get into conversations with people around us that not only is God not real, but he's evil if he is. I was so hateful. I was so tired. I was so drained. I just couldn't. So I began relying on substances. I would smoke weed every single day for about 3 years, all day. I was not happy. I had zero friends that I thought cared about me, or no people in my life that I thought genuinely had any sort of best interest in my, like, for me. I felt completely deserted. And so, from around like October through December of last year, so my junior year, 2023, my mom went even more off the rails. And it got to the point where she was just like, she couldn't even look at her kids without just like making just disgusted faces and disgusting words towards us, because she just hated her life so much. And so, because of the lack of identity that I had in my life, I didn't have an identity in God. I had no physical identity because I felt uncared for by people. I didn't care for myself. I was at an extremely low point. I also began to try to find identity in other things, spirituality, reading books, reading into other religions. I started doing LSD and mushrooms. And I just reached such a low point. And in December, I had an experience with a certain substance, and it put me in such a deep and dark place. I cannot even describe it with words. It was the worst experience of my life. It was completely terrifying, completely horrifying. And it ruined me for so long. So that was in December of last year. And come January, I am still dealing with the after effects of this. And then the day before my mom's birthday, we get in a fight over something really dumb. And then she asks me to leave and go live with my dad, who I haven't talked to in 5 years. So I leave the day before my birthday and I go to live with my dad. And that's very odd. You know, at that point, I am not family oriented. I can't function in a family. I don't view him as a father figure, I view him as a person. He is not bad at all because I truly realized how wrong my mom was in that head. And so I thankfully was able to get rid of the perception that he was just some evil man. I was able to get that out of the way, but it was not easy. And I still live with him today, and we're getting so much better. But from January to around halfway through May, I was in the worst shape that I could even imagine being in. I did not know it was possible to get as low as I was. Basically every night, 5 to 6 nights a week, it does not matter how perfect my day was, it doesn't matter how many people tried to fill my day with joy, I would sit down before going to bed and my body would completely freeze. I would start trembling, like my entire body would start to shake, and I would be in complete fear. And I felt like I was back in December, pretty much every night for me for about 5 months. And that was so draining. That was so draining. Like I can't even put it into words. Like I felt like such a shell of a person. I felt like a zombie. I had no purpose and it was just terrifying. And so I did not care about the world. I hated everybody. I did not care or love any of my classmates, any of my family. Everything was just boring. And then basically from junior retreat, so the end of May? Yeah, the end of May. Did it start in May 20th?
In Germany, 20th, I think. Felt like I had 20 so.
Okay, anyways, it started.
Doesn't matter.
It started. And so, there was this event that we got letters from parents. And I knew I wasn't gonna get one from my mom, but I was like, okay, maybe I could get one from my dad. We've been in a pretty rocky place, but we truly have been working towards having a good relationship. But at this time, I still had zero foundation of like a belief in God whatsoever. I was still in that state of loving that I carried on throughout the past few years. And so it created such an I was so unable to connect with my dad in that way because my dad is one of the most faithful. Like he's so full of faith, and that's the reason he's here because he knows that the only way to keep going is by faith in God. And so there was just such a disconnect still. But I get this letter, and it wasn't my dad's handwriting; he could not write. But I was like, maybe this is my dad's handwriting. I meant my mom's handwriting. And so I opened the letter, but first I excused myself and went to sat in like a field area because I just knew I was going to cry anyways. So I opened the letter, and it was from Mrs. Fritz. And I couldn't even read the letter before I started sobbing. I was so just done. Like that, like, yes, of course, getting a letter from a teacher is one of the sweetest things you can get. But just considering the fact I was not able to recognize any positivity, any goodness, any care or love in my life, that was just such a breaking point for me, even more so than many like other things. And so I didn't even read the letter before I just sat there in a ball and just cried on the grass for like 30 minutes. And then during that time, my body came and sat with me and hugged and prayed on me. But I did not care about prayer at all. It meant nothing to me. And so I appreciated people coming up to me, but at the same time, nothing they said mattered at all to me. So their interactions basically meant nothing to me at the time. Now, when I look back at it, of course, that is one of the sweetest things you can do for somebody struggling like that. But Callie and grandma came up to me, they sat with me, she talked with me, they cried with me, they prayed over me. It was great, but I was just so tired. I was so tired. I couldn't listen. I couldn't process. I was so tired. And then Brady and Ashton also came up to me and sat with me. They're just being sweet, Brady and Ashton. And so eventually, after sitting there for a while longer, I decided to get up because I was just like, what are you gonna do? Sit down, right? And so I get up. I get up and I am just walking around the campus, and I'm looking around, I'm observing because that's the only identity that I had for myself for any of those years is I'm just an observer. Like I'm just here to watch other people live. I am not here to live a life. I'm gonna like the only thing I can do is watch. And so I was filled with so much like sadness and so much anger that I like, why can't I experience that? Why can't I experience serotonin and happiness? I can't do that. I'm not allowed to. Like nothing in my life sets me up for a way that I can be happy. I can laugh with friends. I was so sad, and I eventually went down to the amphitheater area to the steps where Nolan Jackson asked me if I wanted s'mores, and I said no. But before that, I was planning on going down to the water just to be in nature because that's the only thing that I was able to ground myself in. Because whenever your head is so loud, you need to be in a place that's quiet. And so I saw them down there at first. They was talking, just chopping it up as one does. And then they they ended up watching back up, and then I'm still sitting there. Then he asked me if I wanted s'mores. But they go down to the s'more area, and then I go sit by the water. While I'm sitting by the water, I'm just thinking about my life. I'm thinking about all my decisions, all the things I've placed my faith in, my hope in. And I realized I have no hope. I have completely forgotten the meaning of hope. Like, I don't know what that is at all. I was completely hopeless, and I thought, like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I've had hope for my life. You can hope in people, you can hope in that, nothing. Like, it does not matter. Unless you have a hope in your faith in God, it's completely nullified. Like you truly just have some part of you that's empty. And considering just the things I was experiencing, the mentality I was in, I just felt completely alone, deserted, and completely empty. So I'm sitting there and I just get this wave on me of just like I'm so ready not to go back to my cabin. Like I'm not gonna go back to my cabin. Nobody's gonna see me again. Like, and I'm so okay with that. I am more than okay with the fact that I will never see any of my classmates, any of my family ever again. This is the most peaceful I've felt ever since all of these things have happened to me. That I'm so okay with it. And so I'm just a mess. I'm sobbing to myself, but I'm also just so prepared. And then I just look up to the moon and there's just the sky. And then I just like literally yell out in my mind to anything out there. If I am supposed to be here, if I have a purpose on this earth, if I'm supposed to even live another day, I will know. You will give me signs. You know, I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're God. I don't know what you are. But if I'm supposed to be here, you will give me signs that I cannot and will not miss. And literally minutes later, I'm still a wreck, obviously. And it's completely pitch black. You can't see. There's no lights in there anymore. People are headed back to the cafeteria. It's late. Nolan and Jackson walked out there and they asked, can I sit with you? And I said, not sure. And so they sit with me and Nolan put me, and that was the first time in so long that I had felt like genuinely like I felt like a hug actually mattered and cared about it. And that meant so much to me, but at that time I was unable to care about that. Like to the extent that I really did in my mind. I just was so ready to just be gone. I just couldn't do it. And so I'm breaking down to them. And he asks me this one question. He says, how's your relationship with Christ? And I say non-existent. And during this, they keep asking me questions, and I honestly drown them out a lot. After we talked more, I like found out that it was taking like 30, 45 seconds every single time he asked a question for me to respond. And now that I've done processing like thought behind it, I now realize that was me thinking to myself, like, do I even want to be honest about this? Like, do I want to like say things that's going to make him stay, like them both stay here with me? Or should I just make him go away as fast as like I can just to get them out of my hair and so I can just be at peace? And I eventually answered all the questions, but they weren't like targeted questions by any means. They were genuine. They were so genuine. They were kind. I can't remember them, just because I was just not in the right headspace. But we're sitting there. He recites a verse to me, Matthew 11:28 through 30, and it's the verse that talks about all those who are weary come to me, and I will give you rest. And throughout most of like those years, not a single verse had meant anything to me because I did not believe in God. I did not believe that people were good at all. Nobody had good intentions. Everybody genuinely was out to get you all the time. I was so bitter. I was so angry. I was so quick to fight, so quick to make problems with people, and just so quick to shut myself out completely to everybody. And so it was so super odd to me that verse stuck with me, but it was also the only verse that I could think that summed up the only thing I needed to keep going in that moment. I needed somebody to carry my burdens because I was about to completely snap in half. So I just continued thinking about that verse, and Nolan said to me that if I ever get to the point where I want to give my life to Christ, that I could come to him, and that he'd be more than happy to lead me through that and help me through that. And so Nolan eventually gets up and is like, okay, I'm just gonna look at your thoughts, like the Lord loves you, like you are here for a reason. And then he's walking away. But before Jackson walks away, he grabs me. And do you want to say this part?
Oh boy, you're so. Okay, well, at that time, I hugged her as hard as I could, and I was bawling at this point, and I'm about to again, and I said, please, there's someone who cares about you. If it's me, I care about you. You're a good friend of mine, and God cares about you. So please, because I was scared I wasn't gonna see you anymore. I was honestly scared that I wasn't gonna see you anymore. That was my biggest fear, and I didn't want that to happen. So I to make sure you were. I hugged you as hard as I could to make sure you were there, and I said, please, someone cares about you. See, God always does, and I'm here too. Please, don't do this alone. Don't sit there alone and leave your thoughts to yourself, because that's the worst way to do it, ever. I was so scared that I wouldn't see you that morning, so I made sure I got this message across.
And so after that, I just like, all right, dude, I'm not gonna do it. Like, so, so basically, that's it. And so, he gets up and he's walking up the steps, and the moms are like all ready to find me because I'm like, what, like 45 minutes past my cabin time? They're all like, really down, and he's like, Dad, is she okay? Yeah. And so I obviously walk up there with him, with them all, and Jackie whispers up the way I'm just walking up to moms. They're just trying to make like small talk. Sorry, not from my way. They're well, okay. They're like making small talk with me, and they're just, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. And so, but I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, genuinely, I'm honestly mad right now. Like, that was my one opportunity that was genuinely perfect. There will not be another opportunity like that, and it made me upset. I just continued crying because I still didn't feel peace. I still felt that feeling of, okay, wonderful, I'm staying for people once again. Like, why did they have to come sit there? But at the same time, while I was feeling that like sadness and that anger and just like confusion and just like pure disappointment, I couldn't help but one think about that verse, Matthew 11:28-30, that Nolan shared with me, and also think about the fact that literally minutes before they sat down with me and saved my life, I prayed to whatever was out there. It wasn't a prayer of faith. It wasn't a prayer to God. I mean, obviously now I realize that it is a prayer to God. I didn't know that. And so I couldn't stop thinking about that. I was like, do they really just saved my life? It honestly doesn't matter. And so I go back to the cabin and I'm washing my face. And then I look up on the mirror where I'm washing my face, and on it is taped to Matthew 11:28-30. And I just like life is literally trolling me. Why, like, there's no reason that I need to see that right now. It made me even more mad, but every time I had a moment like that, I just got even more curious, more intrigued. I was like, because I believe in, I fully believe in just coincidences. I was like, that is just a stupidly planned coincidence that had no purpose in happening right now. You're kidding me. And so I take a picture of it, and it's my lock screen today. But I just thought about that for the entire night. I couldn't go to sleep. But when I did, we go to chapel the next morning. After breakfast, yeah, it's after breakfast. We go to chapel the next morning, and the first thing that Mr. Hotchkiss opens up with is Matthew 11:28-30. And literally tonight, I just found out that he literally planned on saying, he planned his entire sermon, an entire week before he even heard from Nolan about anything. So it was just a pure spur of the moment, Matthew 11:28-30. And at that moment, I broke down in tears. I was like, there's no way, a prayer that I prayed is finally being oh my gosh, you're kidding me.
That's revenge.
Okay. A prayer that I'm praying is finally being answered, because this has it felt like this had never happened for me. none of my prayers get to get answered. Nothing that I pray for gets to get answered. Everybody else gets something, but why not me? That's the mentality that I have, but that's because you're in such a dark place. You are physically unable to recognize all the good things around you. So I break down. I had to excuse myself multiple times during that service. And then I made it a point to myself that the first person I was going to talk to after that was Nolan. Because I needed to one, ask him if they had verses taped in their cabins, but it was just mine. It was just Mrs. Piercy. And so, I also had to ask him, like, if there was a specific reason he shared that to me, if there was a specific reason that Mr. Hotchkiss said that. And so I eventually found him, like, had a time to talk with him at the games that we were playing, and I was like,
So, man, Mr. Hotchkiss actually comes up a lot in the story. So actually, to add on to what she was saying in the message, man, when I left them down at the lake, I came and I talked with Mr. Hotchkiss for an hour in the cabin. And I literally, I prayed over him and I said, man, just go off script. Just let the Holy Spirit speak through you. Literally, dude. He told me, he said, before he even spoke that day, he walked around the place 7 times praying that walls would come down that day. And he prepared that speech a week beforehand, and the Lord just put that verse on his heart, which is amazing. But Mr. Hotchkiss was being a little goofy, and he lost his ring in the middle of this huge field. He lost his ring. And so we're all like laughing, having a good time, like, oh, we're doing games, so what's next? And then they're like, all right, everybody, get out of this field, and let's start searching for Mr. Hotchkiss' ring. And so we all line up, right? You can imagine the field, there's like 60 of us, we all line up horizontally across the field, and we all just started walking, heads down, just searching for this one ring. And that's when Lily actually came up next to me. And then for me, I didn't really feel called to go around Lily at all. Like, for me, it was the Lord gave me that one opportunity to speak to her. And then I made it a point, not to be mean, but I made it a point to literally not seek her out at all. To literally just, that was my job and I'm done. And if she wants to talk to me, she can come to me. That's just, I think, the role that God had. And so, just right behind me, Lily comes up and she goes, yo, Nolan, I got a weird question. Do you guys have scriptures taped to the mirrors of your cabin? And I said, no, what the heck? It's like, no, why would you ask me that? She said, man, because I went back to the cabin and that scripture in Matthew 11:28 was taped to the mirrors. And I looked for her and I said, man, Lily, the Holy Spirit often repeats things to you about 3 times for confirmation. So if you're getting a message from the Lord, usually it'll be about 3 times that He will repeat that to you. And I looked at Lily and I said, that's 3 times now. The Lord is speaking to you. And I didn't want to preach to her. I didn't want to tell her anything more than what was already said because I didn't feel led to other than to tell her, dude, it's not a coincidence, but it's a sign of God, you know? And so what I think was cool though about the lost ring that we were searching for was actually Mr. Wiles. He actually came up to me a long time after and he gave me this perfect analogy. He said, man, the way that we were searching for that lost ring is exactly how the Lord was constantly pursuing Lily this entire time. Like, man, head down, all of us focused, searching, just constantly looking for this ring. And the Bible talks about the lost sheep, the lost coin, and then Mr. Hotchkiss' lost ring is just an amazing example. And you can see the process of how the Lord was just pursuing Lily. And I think that was such a great example. So that's all I told her. I said 3 times to sign, God is speaking to you. So.
And so after that, I was just like, I don't know what to do. I've never had the opportunity to even like think to myself, can I actually am I starting to have actual faith in anything? Like, is this faith? Because I never felt faith before. I thought in my childhood I felt faith because I was a Christian up until I was 13, 14. But I was so confused. I was so like troubled about this because it was just such a difference. It was just, it was the only thing I could think about. The only thing. I couldn't pay attention to any like other activity. Oh my God. Any other activity that we were doing, nothing. And so during that, I just feel like oddly comfortable just like being around Jackson. Jackson is such like just like he's so inviting. Like nobody feels judged or he's just so unjudgmental. And so I felt really comfortable just like talking to him about things. And so I made it a point to just like sit with him. Just I even wrote down with him. So this was the day after, that night. But we're just sitting there and we're just talking. We're talking about different things that we fall short of in life, just different ways that we are disappointed in life, things that happen to us, things that we do on our daily basis, things that we're working on. We just had a very connected